Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, sitting down again to talk about Starfield. I hope all of you are enjoying your weekend with Starfield, and I appreciate you breaking away from the experience for just about 10-ish minutes here to talk about some things happening in the universe of Starfield. We have a player count update, we have mods already, and much more to get into in our experience with Starfield thus far. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here and you're into Starfield news, information, tips, tricks, guides, all of that is on the way. Before we begin, just a little bit of a self-plug here. Over on Retro Rebound, we just dropped a massive Fallout games retrospective. I'm super proud of how it came out. That's to celebrate the launch of Starfield. So if you want to kind of reflect on the Bethesda Game Studios library, we're going to do Fallout and then we're going to do Elder Scrolls next in a couple of days. I'm really excited about it. I hope you check it out. It'll be linked in the description down below. Thank you so much again for joining me. I know you're very busy this weekend, so let's get right into it, shall we? Starting off with the player count for Starfield. This was a widely discussed topic. Certainly there is a lot of hype driving Starfield, but the question really was with Game Pass, how many people are going to pick this one up on Steam? What's the player count going to look like, especially when you saw the numbers that Baldur's Gate 3 hit? You see the numbers that Hogwarts Legacy hit. Did Starfield come close to that? Well, in its early access period, the peak has been close to 250,000 at 234,502 players who all decided to spend 100 buckaroos to access this game a few days ahead of launch. Now, compared to Fallout 4, that hit 472,962 in its launch day. And on top of that, what you have to consider is Fallout 4 sold over 12 million copies in its opening weekend, which is pretty intense. Now, comparatively speaking, you had Hogwarts Legacy earlier this year peak out on Steam during its early access period at 879,308 players. So Starfield in the mix as a highly played game, but not one of the top games. Even over on Steam, if you look, it's not the top played game. And in the Xbox family, there was some pressure there too. You look at something like Forza Horizon, which in its launch week hit over 10 million players and has gone on to push past 30 million players, making it the biggest launch week in Xbox history and Game Pass ever. So would Starfield ever get to that height is the big question. And I think there's two things factoring into it. Number one, we are in early access, but number two, I think Game Pass is going to be the big number to track here. Now, if you go on over to, say, the Xbox store right now and you look for the most played games, you're going to see that over on the Xbox store for PC, Starfield is the #1 top paid video game for that storefront. Now, that may not be saying too much. A lot of people really don't like the Xbox store. I get that. But if you go over to console, something much more legitimate, Starfield is there in early access right next to Madden 24, and after that is Fires of Rubicon, and then again Starfield. And more people are paying for the Game Pass upgrade than the actual $100 version, which means more people are signing up for Game Pass. I think what will be more telling is the official launch, if you will, when we get past early access, because I have high expectations for Starfield's player count, but more than anything, what we really need to track is, will Starfield drive subscriptions for Game Pass? Will Starfield have a high player count on Game Pass? Because one thing that Phil Spencer was very vocal about was making sure that Starfield was Bethesda Game Studios' most played game ever. And right now, we have yet to see that, but I think there's still time for it to crawl up there, and I think with some of the mixed reviews from larger outlets, make no mistake, that could have done some damage. At the end of the day, player count doesn't really matter to anyone except industry enthusiasts who are just trying to track where it is compared to other games in the competition. But I think if you take Game Pass out of this, you could maybe go into doubling that number. But I think with day one Game Pass and that, especially if you're a subscriber, easy upgrade there, that could knock down the number or split it pretty easily. We'll see in due time, because I have no doubt that Xbox and Bethesda will release more official numbers across all platforms, but I'm curious if Starfield will ever hit that goal of being Bethesda Game Studios' most played game ever. And I say that because Skyrim amassed over 70 million players, but that took past a decade. So this is clearly a long-term vision, and I think with support with mods especially, I think with support such as things like expansions, you're going to see Starfield reach some new heights. But right now at the gates, pretty strong, and given the positive conversation I'm seeing surround the game, that's what matters to me, man. Look, after going through Fallout 4 and Fallout 76, I'm just happy to see this team rightfully winning for once. You know, they feel like they're back. This is a great game. People are happy. They may have their critiques, but we're generally very happy with the game. That's what matters, that it's meeting most people's expectations. But for us players out there who want to augment the experience, Starfield already has over 100 mods, and these aren't just whatever mods. Now, it's not something like new levels and new quests, but these are things that people are looking for day one, and the community is already answering the call to arms. If you look at the top downloaded mods in the last 24 hours, Starfield's performance boost already has over 14,000 downloads. There's an immersive damage mod, which has over 2,000 downloads. There's the removal of enemy health bars, skipping the intro video, responsive grabbing, because in Starfield, if you try to hold the A button like you typically would, or whatever the interact button is, and drag someone or something, there is a little bit of an input delay on it. So some people are accidentally looting stuff that they want to pick up and move around. So all these little tweaks are already coming to the game. I think the performance boost is the most important one. I actually have a more personal story on that one, but we've covered this Starfield FSR versus DLSS mess for a while. I have an artist who works with me over on Retro Rebound and does fantastic thumbnail works. By the way, the video I told you about earlier, you know, the Fallout Retro Rebound retrospective, did the thumbnail for that. Please go check it out again, just your little reminder. But nonetheless, he was having trouble running Starfield until this mod came out, and then upon downloading it, installing it, putting it in, the performance increased. So yeah, no doubt that the AMD partnership is hurting some people's experience, but I'm seeing great reports here from the performance boost mod for Starfield until maybe at some point the DLSS comes in with the official flip of the Switch. Funny to see things like immersive damage getting a pretty high download count early on. I think of something like Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, which had very spongy enemies at times, and I get that because I always had the immersive damage mod on. But when it comes to Starfield, that was actually something that worked so well and felt so responsive, I never even thought of it in my impressions video. I think the damage output works really well here, and very rarely did I run into spongy enemies, but I like how the spongy enemies work because of the way they layer the health bar, where you'll see like little notches in them, and as you empty one health bar, another one fills. So there are like more boss enemies that have that, but I feel like it's been well balanced where it's not, I hate in Fallout 4 the legendary enemies where you empty their health bar and then they do something and all of a sudden it's full again and they mutate. It just feels a little too supernatural to me, but I like how Starfield's balanced it out, and I actually feel like because stealth works in this game, it was not as much of a problem. But yeah, there's a ton of mods out there for you to check out, from visuals to gameplay tweaks to even inventory management, which has been one of the big complaints with the game. There's a lot of fixes already coming out of the community, and certainly this is just the very beginning, ladies and gentlemen, before we get official console mod support and Creation Club and all of that fun post-launch stuff. This is just the beginning, and people are fixing some pretty big issues with the game, but one thing that has yet to be fixed are Starfield's local maps. This is something I could kick myself for not mentioning in my impressions, because it's something that I never used because of my disgust with them. I managed to get around nonetheless, because if you use the scanner and you look down, you'll see a little waypoint, like almost a clairvoyant from Skyrim. You'll be able to get to your quest, so I just made use of that anytime I got a little confused instead of opening the local map. But yeah, it's going viral over on Reddit. Like right here, you see a post on the Starfield Reddit saying Skyrim's in-town map 12 years ago versus Starfield's, and yeah, it's a night and day difference. And what I'll say is I'm accepting of this kind of map if we're on, you know, a random rock somewhere, a barren gas giant, you know, that type of stuff. I'm totally cool with that. We don't need a local map for every single planet. That's a pretty ridiculous ask. But for the major places like New Atlantis, Neon, Aquila City, I feel like they could use a local map of sorts. Personally, maybe it's because beyond the boundaries of those cities are procedurally generated content, so it's hard to factor in for Bethesda Game Studios. I'm not entirely sure on that, but I feel like for the cities themselves, they deserve some sort of local map to make navigation easy, especially when you first get to New Atlantis. Oh my god, it's overwhelming, dude. I mean, it's a great feeling of being overwhelmed, but there is a sense of no direction whatsoever. And that's visually a lot of times in the game, like I talk about with the step out moment not being there, but it's also now with the map. So you just, like I said, the way you find content in this game, it's very different. Once you get into the rhythm, it's fine. It's just this kind of messy bedroom, well-oiled machine type feeling, but it definitely could be better. And I wonder if this is something that they're going to respond to. Some people actually thought this was a bug, which I thought was really funny. It's like, no, the local maps are just really not that great. But that is what's going on with modding and community feedback. I wanted to also get into, speaking of Reddit, Todd Howard shared a pretty cool message over on Reddit saying, hey everyone, longtime lurker here, a quick thank you for your passion and excitement for Starfield. I can remember when this sub started, and as it's grown, your excitement has fueled all of us at Bethesda. We like to say we have gaming's smartest fans, and you certainly are. Starfield has been a labor of love for us, and the fact that you all care enough to build a community around it means the world to us. We can't wait for you to play. And I just like the interaction there. You know, I think this is why people end up, no matter what, coming around on Bethesda Game Studios one way or another, because there is a good community interaction there. And that care isn't just lip service. It's going to get into this final story here. They pay tribute to their fans who can't play their games. So I remember seeing this Reddit post earlier on after Starfield got the delay, and someone shared, hey, I'm pretty gutted. I had a lung cancer diagnosis, and I'm probably not going to make it to Starfield's launch. And actually, Bethesda put them in the game here. So you'll see there's a tribute to Alex Hay, and it says, to all my friends and fellow explorers, I'm always with you out there in the Starfield. Love always, Alex Hay. I love that Bethesda does this, and I don't think they get enough credit for it. They catch these things. They put Shirley Curry in Elder Scrolls 6 because she was upset that she may not get there to play it. I remember with Nuka World coming around, there was a story going around on Reddit, and they actually made an interactable NPC. Bethesda continues to pay tribute to their fans and recognize those who may not make it to Starfield. In fact, the top-rated comments, and it kind of makes me like watery-eyed, the top-rated comment on my Starfield impressions was, we all lived long enough to make it to Starfield. Congrats, everyone. Like, there is that feeling. I know it sounds so dramatic, but like, there is that feeling of like, I hope I make it to that game for some, at least parts of my community. And I've felt that, like with Fallout 4, I remember I had anxiety at one point. I was like, I don't want to die before this game comes out, which I know I was younger at the time, but I think it's great that Bethesda recognizes how important their titles are to their fans. I feel like that was missed with Fallout 76, but to see the continued tributes being paid to those who couldn't make it there is something that I think is special, and I love that they do that. I love that they immortalize some of their biggest fans in their games so that we can see those things and reflect a little bit. But nonetheless, I just wanted to call that one out amidst everything else we were talking about today, whether it be player count or mods and so on and so forth. So ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today's Starfield news update. I know I promised the guides soon. I swear to God, we're working on them. Just, I thought, okay, this seems like more important, pressing stuff, because I've already seen 1,000,001 guides go live, and I was like, you'll wait for the premium Mr. Matty guide, and once that hits, then you'll be fully informed on how to play Starfield, all right? But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. I do appreciate everyone who's been supporting the channel so much lately, not just in viewership, but kind words. You know, there is a little bit of nerves whenever a Bethesda Game Studios game comes around for me to review, because let's be honest, ever since my Fallout 4 review, it hits a little different. So to just see the reception and the interactivity and the positivity, just because people think I'm doing a good job, it means the world. So thank you so much for tuning in, for spending some of your time here today. I know, again, you're very busy playing a certain Bethesda Game Studios game that involves going to the stars. So you go on, get back to that, or enjoy it later whenever you play it. I appreciate you tuning in. With that, have a great rest of your weekend. We will be back Monday for that guide as promised, unless something crazy happens. Then maybe plans will change. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in once more, and I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts down below on all things Starfield. So fire away. With that, take excellent care of yourselves, and be sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the heck out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.